All right, so today we're going to be talking about patterns. So what's a pattern? So a pattern is anytime we want to use one thing over and over again. So if we come down, go to pattern, we have rectangular patterns, circular patterns, patterns on a path. We also have mirror, which we'll include today also. So let's go ahead and kind of get started. So I'm just going to create something real quick. I'm not worried about dimensions because I'm just showing the commands. So I'm just going to throw this in here somewhere. And let's say I want to have a grid of holes. So I can put in a hole over here. And I just need to make one hole. And then I can use the rectangular pattern. And it's going to ask me, what do I want to pattern? I'm going to pattern that hole there. I just pick on that face, pick the direction, kind of my main direction. And now I can pull out here, and I can also pull out here. And the default is 3 by 3. And the measurement is from the first one to the last one. If you want the measurement from one to the next, change that to spacing, and you'll see the arrow switches here. So it's just measuring there. Then I can change how many are in the pattern. So change that there. I can grab this arrow, bring it in there. I can also, these check marks, that little box for suppress, that's checked. I can go in and say, nope, I don't want that one, and I don't want that one. Then I can hit OK, and it'll create the pattern. Okay, so that's rectangular pattern, and the direction can go based on any edge you have. So let's see if I had a chamfer here. I could do a pattern of that hole going that direction. Let's say I wanted it to go both sides. So on that second direction, I'm going to say symmetric. So now it's going to go one each way. Okay. I can also have the direction be picked from a sketch. So if I create a sketch and I draw a line somewhere, so that's the direction I want the pattern to go. Now I can do the pattern and then pick that as the direction. So you can see it's going in that direction. So that's used a lot for that kind of thing. Let me just keep that there. I'm going to throw another hole in here. Let's say I have a little hole here, and then I want other holes to go around it. Or I want to have a little cutout. So I'm going to create a sketch here. And I'm going to make some kind of little cutout here. So I'm going to do a couple circles, a couple lines. I'm going to make those 2 points here vertical to each other to make them so they line up. Then we'll trim out the stuff I don't need. So here's my little cutout that I want. Hit finish. Oops, let me add an angle there. Let's call that 30. All right. So now I can extrude that down. Now I want to do the circular pattern. So I'm going to pick that. I could go in and pick each of these faces, or I can come over here and just pick that extrude off the browser. Axis, pick what I want to go around, and now I can tell it how many of those things I want. And again, if I want to suppress one or more of them, I can click that. I usually leave the check mark here on just so that if I want to, I can do it. And then say OK, and now I have that as a pattern. Makes it really handy to put it in and do things. I could, if I had gone back and say I wanted fillets in these corners, I could have gone in and added these fillets. You can see I can pick even though I can't see them. And now I can do that pattern. And for the objects, I'm going to pick the extrude and the fillet off the browser. And I'll pick that. And there we go. It patterns around both the fillet and the extrusion. So if I expand that, I can see those are there. So kind of, if you're going to do a pattern of things, get it as fully done as you want beforehand, and then pattern it once it's all done. Here's another example of something. So let's say I have a cylinder here. Say I'm doing an outside thing, and then I have a pole, and I want to have them in a pattern but equally spaced. I can create a sketch there again and do a spline. Now I can finish, and I can go to pattern. And this time, instead of picking on a face or an extrusion, I can just pick that body also. And so if that body had other things done to it, everything that body would go with the pattern. Pick the path, pick there, and I can kind of pull out and show how far along the path I want it to go. So I can just, if I go past the end, it'll just kind of keep going in the same direction. But it'll kind of snap to that end point, and I can tell it how many of them I want within that, and it's going to equally space them. If this was a rectangular shape, I would be able to tell it have it identical or go with the path direction. So let's do something to here. I'm going to create a sketch. I'm going to do a little notch on the side here. That way we can see kind of the difference. So pattern, path, pick that body, pick that path, let's snap to the end, and you can see right now they're on identical, so that little cutout is on the right side on every one of them. If I say path direction, it's going to turn it so that now that cutout is always on kind of the right side of the path. So if I finish that, you'll be able to see it a little bit better. You can see it has the same relationship to the path as this first one did. It was a little bit turned to the left, and so it's going to keep that relationship as it goes. So that's a path. And all three of these, the rectangular, the circular, the path pattern, can work by either picking just the face, by picking the features from the browser, or by picking bodies. You can do the same thing with any one of these options. So the last one we're going to talk about is mirror. So if you want to have kind of a right and a left-handed side of something, let's see, I want this, so I'm just going to move this whole thing over here so I have some space. I want another one of those off on the side that's opposite. It's got these on the bottom right corner. So I'm going to go in here, go to mirror, pick my object that I want to mirror. So if I pick here, I'm going to pick in faces, or you just go here and pick that body. And then I want a mirror plane. So that's any flat surface. So it could be the side of a part, it could be the planars, the origin planes, or it could be planes we've constructed. So I'm just going to pick here, so it's a part, and say OK. And now you can see it's opposite. Let's say I wanted these holes on both sides of this part. I could create a plane down the middle, so use this mid plane, and pick both sides of my part. And now I could go in and do the mirror and just pick these cutouts, pick that mirror plane here, and say OK. And now it's mirrored that across. So either way, it doesn't matter if you're using just a face of an object, the feature, or body, it all works. if things are symmetric, draw half and mirror it. If I wanted to make these two be one, like this was the exact half and the other one was supposed to be exactly like it, just mirrored across the midline, then I would go in and mirror, pick that body, do a mirror plane of this face, say okay, and then we can combine those two things back into one. Okay, so think about that. If you're wanting to do things that are symmetric, don't do a little work of doing it on both sides. Do half and then just mirror it over to make the other half. Same thing if you want things that are in a pattern, do one and then pattern it. Don't do the extra work of totally redefining it each time. That's a lot of work. Also, in the sketch, you'll notice that there is pattern options in the sketch. Don't do that. Cut one and then pattern the feature or the faces after you're done with the sketch. Don't do it in the sketch. That just makes your sketches too complex. Remember, my first rule of sketches was keep them simple. 8 things max, preferably less than 6. So keep it simple. Use the patterns here as features, not inside of the sketch. All right. If you have any questions, let me know.